Paul's always got the same look. No bedhead. My bedhead, Paul, today is strong. That's how we do it on the Sleep Deprived Sundays. All right. There are a million things I want to get to today, but I don't want to make the episode too long since it gets too long. First, how was your Saturday?
It was good. We were in Norman. We did the last half of our show in the stadium in the rain, Matt, and my hair didn't get affected, but you should have seen Tebow and Jordan Rodgers. I mean, they were struggling.
Yeah, look, when you're the TV stars that they are, and you care a lot about the hair product, it could be a wild Saturday. The weather we thought was going to be a factor in Norman yesterday. Maybe it was for the crowd and the TV sets, but certainly wasn't the case for Ole Miss and Oklahoma. I'm going to put that aside for a minute because to me, the biggest story right now, the morning after, is from Baton Rouge and Texas A&M and LSU. Now, I'm going to default to you on this one because you have Brian Kelly on your show each and every week, but there's a couple of ways I want to set this up. And I believe, here's what I believe with LSU. I believe that it is and should be one of the top 10 programs in the country year in and year out, no matter what. The past 3 coaches have won national championships. Nick Saban did so. Les Miles did so. Ed Orgeron did so. And in comes Brian Kelly. That's the 35,000 feet view, Paul. Where I think we might be having a little bit of a disconnect this year with what's actually going on in Baton Rouge. I think there was a lot of this preseason stuff with this team where Garrett Nussmeier comes back. There's a lot of momentum. Weeks is there held. Perkins is healthy. You're thinking Blake Baker, year 2, the defensive scheme, everything's going to figure out. But you look at the offensive line. There's true freshmen on the offensive line. They are inexperienced up front. Maybe, just maybe, they don't have a game stretcher like we're used to seeing. The year they had Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. Maybe, just maybe, Paul, this year was a year that was always supposed to be like this, which in year 4, LSU fans don't want to hear because they're thinking Brian Kelly and his system and his recruiting should have taken root by now, but it didn't, and they got absolutely bludgeoned by Texas A&M, by their former strength coach. It was the story of the day in college football. And now there are screams and yells for Brian Kelly after their 49-25 loss.
It is DEFCON 1 for Brian Kelly right now, Matt. And I say that as somebody who, you know how I feel about him. I talk to him every week before I talk to you on SportsCenter. And that doesn't matter, though. Losing and getting blown out for the second time now. Remember last year in early November, it was Alabama. Now it's Texas A&M. You can't let that happen at home. It's inexcusable. It's not accepted. And I thought the worst comment of the day yesterday came from perhaps the most influential person in the state of Louisiana. That's the governor, Jeff Landry. He tweeted to the Board of Supervisors and to the state legislature, after watching this tonight, maybe it's not a good idea to raise ticket prices. You understand, Matt, how political that state is, and the capital is right down the street from Tiger Stadium. And that was a body blow to this tenure of Brian Kelly because everything is intertwined down there. I don't know what is happening behind the scenes. I know what Brian Kelly said after the game, and quite frankly, it really doesn't matter. He handled it better than some of the meltdowns that he's had previously. But it's a bad look. There's no sugarcoating it. LSU fans are hopping mad. And now it's a matter of what Scott Woodward does. There is an interim president. There's currently 5 finalists to take over. So that's always a complication. But sometimes when the most important topic of the day is college football, everything else takes a back seat. And this will be a fascinating week. LSU's off this week, and then they go to Bama.
Yeah, and all right. Year 1 of Brian Kelly, maybe I expect this, right? A roster that's really good, but it's not great. They lost a lot up front to the NFL. They don't have any real, like I said, guys that can stretch the field. LSU should be stockpiled with talent. Without you should stockpiled. For some reason, even in the Clemson game, which, by the way, now doesn't, I mean, what does that look like now moving forward? I just don't think this year's version of LSU is that good. I mean, it's just as simple as that. And therein lies the problem. Year 4 of Brian Kelly, a coach who paid a lot of money, you would think he would have put together a team, a program, and a roster that's got NFL talent everywhere. And maybe it does, maybe it's young, but what do you see? I just don't think they're that good.
Yeah, I mean, we thought they were, and Matt, I don't need to tell you. I mean, for all the dumb takes that I've had before the season, I mean, there were plenty of equally dumb ones about Garrett Nussmeier and LSU, because that's just where we are in college football. This, to me, is not quite as epic as Penn State or Clemson, because let's be honest, I mean, LSU is losing to good teams. They're not just losing to dog meat out there, but they still have at least two games that they could also lose. And it was, the narrative was playoff or bust for Brian Kelly. So I don't really know what happens now. I was there about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and the administration seemed aligned, but that was a couple of losses ago.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to read the tea leaves on how hot the pressure gets. Can LSU afford $52 million? And the irony is that the team that beat them, that the guy that will be making the decision on Brian Kelly, Scott Woodward, was the one who brought Jimbo Fisher to Texas A&M in the first place. So he's well thought of, and he's hired a couple of national championship coaches in women's basketball and baseball. That's not going to matter, though. Brian Kelly is subject number one, Matt, and it's not going away. And one more thing, the national media hates him, okay? So when it's discussed on shows up and down the dial, he will not catch any favors at all.
Okay, so there's the money aspect of it, and I'm glad you brought that up. Because we live in a day and age, it's buyout USA in college football. $50 million, you think, for a program like LSU, probably not a problem. You bring up Woodward hiring Jimbo Fisher, also one of the most notorious buyouts in college football history. He likes to swing big. He likes to swing big money, and he likes to bring in a superstar coach. And in both instances, Jimbo at Texas A&M, and at least now Brian Kelly at LSU, does not appear to be working. So I don't mean this in the money sense of the buyout, but can LSU afford to keep him? Is this something where you get through the season, you dive into this roster, and you just say, guys, maybe this is a case of Texas, who, by the way, is still in it, or Penn State or Clemson, where at the beginning of the season, we focused on the quarterback and said, oh, these guys, I mean, this is a national championship type roster, like we did with Arts, like we did with Cade Klubnik and Clemson, like we did with Penn State. And maybe they're just not good. And maybe they're just above average, and that's just what this team is. But when you start pumping people in the preseason with all of these accolades, there's nowhere to go but failure if it doesn't live up to these preseason. Is that possible?
Matt, I've heard this a number of times in recent years when a program says we can't afford to fire him, and then you respond by saying what you just did. Can you afford to keep him, though? And right now, I think there's more pressure on can you afford to keep him. I don't know how you can explain it away. And while last night seemed cataclysmic, he has another opportunity or two. And I think should he go to Alabama and Oklahoma and let, I think I'm trying to remember. I think both games are on the road, I believe. How do you explain away a 7-5 record when on Labor Day, Matt, a lot of people were saying on the network, I know I was sitting next to one, that LSU is the best team in the country. That was after the Clemson. So, I mean, that is the hard part to square. And Brian Kelly, he's from Boston. He's brusque for a lot of people in the South. He left Notre Dame by saying, I'm going to LSU to win a national championship, and Notre Dame played for a championship, and LSU hasn't come close. So those are, and then the thing that really gets him, and I think it's somewhat artificial, but it's a fact, that the last three coaches at LSU have all won national championships. Nick Saban, fairly quickly, left